Bangladesh, a nation with a vibrant history, finds itself grappling with deepening political turmoil. The streets have become a stage for protests and clashes, reflecting a society deeply divided. The ruling Awami League government, led by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, faces mounting opposition and accusations of authoritarianism. Tensions have been simmering for years, fueled by allegations of election rigging, corruption, and the suppression of dissent. The opposition, led by the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, or BNP, has been vocal in its criticism, organizing rallies and demanding fair elections. This struggle for political control has pushed Bangladesh to a precipice. The international community watches nervously, urging restraint and dialogue to prevent further escalation and bloodshed. On July 29, 2024, the streets of Dhaka, Bangladesh's bustling capital, became a sea of protest. Tens of thousands of Bangladeshis, led by the BNP, took to the streets in a massive show of force against the ruling Awami League government. The protesters' demands were clear, free and fair elections, an end to government repression, and the release of political prisoners. The atmosphere was electric, a potent mix of anger and hope. Protesters waved the BNP's green and red flags, their chants echoing through the city. The July 29th protest was not an isolated incident. It was the culmination of months of growing discontent. However, the day would take a dark turn, marred by violence and a brutal crackdown that shocked the nation and drew international condemnation. The Bangladeshi government responded to the July 29th protests with a display of force that shocked many observers. As the demonstrations swelled in size, so too did the presence of security forces. Riot police, armed with batons, tear gas and water cannons, moved into the crowds, attempting to disperse the protesters. Eyewitness accounts and video footage painted a chaotic and disturbing scene. The air was thick with tear gas, and the sound of explosions and screams filled the air. Protesters, caught off guard by the ferocity of the response, scattered in panic. The police were accused of using excessive force, indiscriminately attacking protesters and bystanders alike. The crackdown on the July 29th protest marked a turning point in Bangladesh's political crisis. In the aftermath of the July 29th protest, the Bangladeshi government launched a sweeping crackdown on the opposition. Hundreds of BNP leaders, members and supporters were arrested in the days and weeks that followed. They were accused of a litany of offences ranging from inciting violence and vandalism to sedition and terrorism. Human rights groups condemned the arrests as politically motivated, aimed at silencing dissent and crippling the opposition ahead of the upcoming election. The government's actions had a chilling effect on free speech and assembly in Bangladesh. Opposition figures were hesitant to speak out, fearing arrest or reprisal. Journalists and activists also faced intimidation and harassment, their work stifled by the climate of fear. The crackdown on the opposition, combined with the muzzling of free speech and assembly, raised serious concerns about the future of democracy in Bangladesh. The violent crackdown on the July 29th protest and the subsequent wave of arrests drew sharp condemnation from the international community. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, denounced the Bangladeshi government's actions, calling for an end to the crackdown and the release of political prisoners. The United States, the European Union, and other Western governments expressed their concern over the deteriorating human rights situation in Bangladesh. They urged the government to respect freedom of expression and assembly and to ensure that any use of force by security forces was proportionate and necessary. The international condemnation put significant pressure on the Bangladeshi government, which had long relied on its Western allies for development assistance and trade. Despite the international pressure, the government showed no signs of relenting in its crackdown on the opposition. The ongoing political turmoil in Bangladesh casts a long shadow over the country's future. The crackdown on the opposition, the shrinking space for dissent, and the erosion of democratic norms have raised serious concerns about the fairness and credibility of future elections. With the next general election scheduled for 2025, the stakes are incredibly high. The international community has urged the Bangladeshi government to create a level playing field for all political parties and to ensure that the elections are free, fair and credible. However, the government's actions suggest that it is more interested in consolidating its power than in ensuring a democratic transfer of power. The opposition, weakened by the crackdown and facing an uneven playing field, has threatened to boycott the election if their demands for electoral reforms are not met. The international community must continue to pressure the Bangladeshi government to respect human rights and to ensure a credible electoral process.
Commit your way to the Lord, trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. Psalm 37 verse 5. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4 verse 13.